Cool. I'm trying to remember. I watch the show all the time, and I struggled to remember the structure of anything. So, is it plot? I need to
Plot
do
is
plot.
next. Yep. And then we just go off the rails after we go through the whole movie.
So you want plot? Now you guys are getting the mechanics of how potting works.
15 minutes of plot.
Okay.
15 is usually like 25.
That's all right. I'll get through it quick.
Well, you see, I always say that. And then Jarvis over here has to interject a couple of really bad jokes.
Friggin' peanut gallery over here.
Depending on the way you look at it. It's all perspective. Some would say really great jokes.
I will say I haven't seen very many comments about your great jokes.
Ask them to put in the comments if you think my jokes are great or if they're bad.
Yeah.
And if you think that they're bad, subscribe. It's a win-win.
Yeah, if you think they're bad or good, put a like on the video.
But then how are we going to know, Jarvis?
Yeah, there's no way to...
If you think they're good, like the video. If you think they're bad, subscribe. You'll put up a poll. All right, Hunter, take it away.
Yeah, okay.
While I go run and get drinks because it's warm in here.
There we go. Go do your thing. I'm gonna let Michael pass in front of the camera. Go ahead. Do your thing. Huh? No, I've got some water. I'm good. Thank you. Oh, there he goes. Fast as the speed of light. Okay, Sinners. Sinners 2025, directed by Ryan Coogler, is a film that takes place, I believe, in the Mississippi Delta. I forget the name of the town, and we are first introduced to. Yes, in the 1930s, we are first introduced to Sammy, preacher boy, walking into his father's church. He's all cut up and bruised and bloody, and
carrying his broken guitar.
Carrying a broken guitar, and we quickly flash back to one day prior, and Sammy lives in this small Mississippi town on the Delta with his father and several community members, and he's quickly greeted by the Smokestack twins, played by Michael B. Jordan, and to steal a joke from Letterboxd, also Michael A. Jordan. Finally, we see Michael A. Jordan in a movie. Funniest Letterboxd review I've seen about this movie. In general, you're welcome. So funny.
I was gonna say it shows him waking up early. He's doing his chores, or he's getting his what's it called? His quota done, and then he goes. He like works in the fields. He's trying to get it done early, sharecropping. Yep. He has a very important conversation with his dad in the church.
Yeah, before
he goes off, I think
the big thing is that him and his father have this. His father's a preacher. Sammy likes to play the blues. At this time, like those things are not. They don't. That's sinners music, and Sammy is getting his chores and everything done early so he can go play music with his guitar or whatever. The Smokestack twins, played by Michael B. Jordan, arrive.
Yeah, Michael A. Jordan.
And Stack. And they have arrived into town to open a juke joint, a blues club, basically blues, jazz, soul, folk music, all of this stuff. They're opening a dance club essentially, and they they're war veterans. They've just come back from Chicago after 7 years away. They were working for Al Capone. Like, they are fully ready. They've got a bag of money in hand. And we meet them as they are buying an old sawmill from a local white man who is very quickly revealed to be a member of the KKK, who sells them this place.
But the KKK doesn't exist anymore.
They don't exist anymore.
So the leader of the KKK says.
Yeah, of course.
And that was a pretty tense scene for a little bit because.
For sure.
People were reaching for weapons.
Reaching for weapons. They're like, it's tense, of course. And the subsequent scenes, like pretty much the rest of the first act is just the twins. they are Sammy's cousin, and they get Sammy, and they're gonna have him play blues at the club, and they're going around gathering people, gathering the staff, and gathering supplies so that they can like open the club tonight. Their plan is to open the club tonight and start with one big night where they're bringing in as many people as possible and just really celebrating the community and opening this, starting the club off with a bang. And they gather another friend from the fields named Cornbread. Love Cornbread.
Love Cornbread.
To act as the bouncer. There's
very sassy man.
Very sassy man.
Cornbread's great with chili.
There's this Asian couple. I believe it's Bo and I'm forgetting names. Let me look at my list. I came prepared. Bo and Grace. They run the general store in town, and they get them to help supply some food and like make a sign for it. They recruit Wunmi Mosaku, who plays Annie, who's like this sort of hoodoo woman. Practicing magic.
I think they were married, weren't they?
Well,
or they were to Stack and Smoke.
It was Smoke.
Yes.
Smoke and Annie were. I don't know if they were married at one point, but they definitely had a daughter that passed away when she was a baby. So like there are just these sort of all of these collected scenes of like. Smoke and Stack split up. Assembling the team. They go meet Delroy Lindo, who plays
Sinners Assemble.
A character named Delta Slim. Yeah.
Oh, he's so good. He's so good.
Like he's a blues musician. Sammy meets this beautiful woman in town named Perline, and they take to each other pretty quickly, even though she's already married.
Sinners.
Stack has a run-in with his old flame, played by Haley Steinfeld, and like there's some she's white.
Her name's Mary.
It's Mary. And she's white, and she's like married, but she's back in town because her mom just passed away. And so there's like this real meeting, this like sort of serendipitous moment where everybody is just kind of like all the twins know exactly who they need to get, but also they're having these chance run-ins with people who are going to be key to the story later.
I wanna interject something. Surprise, surprise. One thing I really love about Coogler is he shows a lot of respect to different races. All the people that are in all the different I guess minorities that are represented. Obviously the Black community, Asians, which were also under a lot of prejudice during that time as well. And then later, jumping ahead, even to our antagonist, who is Irish, they've all had they've all had not a great time in America.
To say the least. Yeah, I would say.
And they've all experienced that kind of prejudice and what else?
The Italians I mentioned.
Yeah, but but I love because like when you look at when you look at like Wakanda Forever, he takes a lot of care and respect to represent, Talokan and the people and the culture, and he does it. I noticed great respect for all the the Asian people that were there, and just the different cultures involved through the music
for
as
sure.
well. So there's a lot of respect paid. So I really like that about Coogler. He's not just like, oh, I'm going to represent my people well. He's like, I'm going to represent everybody well, and I think he does that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and like it's kind of he does a really good job, sort of laying the groundwork of like we're at this time in America where like all of these cultures and all of these ideas are kind of like clashing but finding community within one another. And so anyway, they open the club. It's going incredibly. I'm sure we'll break all this down a little more. But like Sammy gets to play blues in front of everybody for the first time, which is like really the crowning achievement scene of the movie in general, where The movie opens with this framing device of this legend about people across cultures who can play music that reaches into the spirit realm and literally conjures spirits and things like that. And
he mentions how there are people and music that transcends time, past and future.
Yeah.
And during that scene, guys, this is a scene that I'm talking about that is it's really hard, I think, to find the words to fully describe the emotions and the depth and the weight of the scene as you watch it. Like for me, I'm just gonna fumble over words talking about the scene because it was so impactful and it was so touching. Like I cried during the scene, and what I said earlier about him paying respect, not only did he show during that scene the past of African music and African culture, the future of African music, like in the 70s and 80s and 90s, all the way up to present day, that's all represented in that music scene. And not only that, but I don't know if you remembered, but there was even, like I said, respect to Asian. There was someone dressed in the past Asian dress, kimonos and stuff like that. So he even showed respect once the camera got to his Asian friends. Like he showed respect to them as well and showed their past and stuff like that. But that scene, like, I literally cried. It was so beautiful to watch that. And of course, just all the imagery with he literally figuratively set the roof on fire. Like it was his playing was so fire that like it literally brought the house down, figuratively, but we got to see it literally with the roof on fire.
Yeah. Yeah. So, should we stop and like talk about some of these scenes like as we're going through?
I think we should talk about this one because it's so important.
Michael's ready.
I'm going back in time just a little bit.
Please. If we need to stop and work scenes as we're going through, let me know because I'm happy to do that.
There was a very plot important but not character important scene where this dude, like half burning, shows up to some small shack in the middle of town. Not even the middle of like just somebody's farm. I was like, please help the Indians. They were coming to get me. And
he had a bunch of smoke coming off.
Yeah, he had a bunch of smoke coming off of his skin.
Normal.
Super normal.
To see.
He really needed to be invited into their house to get in there and offered them money in the form of cold hard gold.
And like doubloon, they're not doubloons, but
they're
like
basically
we're talking
doubloons.
about like old gold.
Yeah,
old
little
money.
circles with pressed things in them.
Little crosses.
And mention they were Klansmen.
Yeah. Jarvis wants me to mention that they're Klans people. Am I your microphone stand? But now I'm also your secretary. What's happening here?
It's hard to.
I know. This is here.
So.
Anyways, it's
Also mention the funny thing about the Choctaw Indians.
What funny thing about them? Okay.
So one thing that I thought was pretty funny, and I've actually seen a few people mention it as well, like on random movie reviews and stuff like that. Yeah, but like because the Native Americans, the Choctaw Indians, showed up and they're like, hey, did you see somebody come by here? Because this person is very dangerous. And they were like, no, we didn't. What do you want? They're like, look, if you let this guy in your house, there's danger. And they kept deflecting. And in my head canon, because it doesn't show it like it did when what's his name? The Irish vampire guy?
Remick,
when he first shows up, they show that he notices the Klan's robes in their house, the white hoods. I like to think in my head canon that the Choctaw Indians saw it as well. And then it's not like it feels like they didn't try as hard as they could have to be like, you're going to die. They just kind of like, okay, we tried. See ya. And then they just pieced out, which I thought was pretty funny. That's fair. But I also want to make a point here that maybe I'm overthinking it. It's too deep, but like without talking to Coogler himself, I don't know. But from my perspective, I was like, thinking about, especially during those times, and it applies, I guess. I grew up in a Christian home. I think that a lot of times we're so quick to accept the things that people say or do from the people that look like us, when they really could be the wolf in sheep's clothing. They could be the ones that bring us down, or our community, or whatever. We as humans like to separate ourselves and segregate ourselves into little boxes. It's a whole big thing where people like to say, "Oh, don't put me in a box," but we put ourselves in, well, I'm white, I'm Asian, I'm rich, I'm poor, I'm blah blah blah. Like there's so many different categories we put ourselves in. And I was thinking, it's like the damage that's done because we're so quick to accept someone that we think is safe that looks just like us. You know what I mean? He was white like them, and there were Native Americans who did not look like them that obviously also had they didn't have a really good time once the settlers showed up to America. So there was also prejudice against them as the natives. So the natives said, "Hey, you're in danger." Because the white guy was like, "Hey, I need help." They just accepted him instead of maybe pausing and being like, "Hey, is this the best move to let this guy in our place?" And I think that's echoed again later on. Sorry to jump ahead. I forgot to, and while I'm here, it's a little late, but spoilers, obviously.
No.
but also, I think that also goes to later on in the movie with Haley Steinfeld's character, Mary. Because she even says, like, they'll listen to me more than they listen to you because I look like them. And that is what that started the trouble, basically. She was the first to get, turned. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I think that there's something, I don't know if Coogler meant to do that, but I think that that's maybe something that could have been, implied by that. Or maybe I'm just inferring too much.
No. It's a super thematically rich movie, obviously. And like, I think the thing, if I'm going to talk about like if we're going to talk about like this chunk leading up to like this one scene, I think the thing that he lays the groundwork for it so well, it's worth noting that Ryan Coogler wrote and directed this movie. And the other crazy thing that like he conceived this movie, I think I have this stat. He pitched this movie to his company, Proximity Media, in October 2023. They are filming by April 2024. Like, it is such a quick... He had not had it written yet in October. He was like, "This is the next movie I'm doing." They're at a company retreat, and he's just like, this is what I think I'm going to do. And everybody's like, "Okay, let's go." He writes the movie.
We're in.
He writes the movie. It's done by December. He's pitching in January. They're filming in April. There is this crazy turnaround. And I think it is so interesting that like there is this, the beginning of the movie is just this like assembling of a team, this very like well plotted, like we're going to introduce you to everybody. You're going to know who this person is in the first like 10 seconds you meet them. And then like you feel that first for anybody that like cares about screenwriting stuff or whatever, or structure stuff, like you feel the first act end. You feel it where it's like, we've got the team together. Let's start the movie. And like it's
a long first act.
It's a long first act. And
like it takes a third.
But it like feels good to get to know these people. Yeah. Like it's just, you understand everybody's relationships to each other. It is so cool. And it all leads to this moment where like Sammy gets to play. You've heard him play a couple times in the movie now. And he is so determined to play his music. And he shows up. They call him up. He starts playing. And like it is instant. Goosebumps, like there's like stomping on the floor, rhythmic stomping on the floor. And he's playing this song. And like then I believe the first thing you see is like they're doing all this dynamic, cool camera movement. And then this guy walks in front of the camera. Is she okay? Cat. We're having a cat emergency. This guy walks in front of the camera in like sci-fi funk garb. He's like a 70s funk star riffing on a guitar like Jimi Hendrix. And
Funk star, that's what they called me in high school.
sure. And suddenly you're like, oh, it is totally so outside of the language of this movie for them to do that. And there is this whole like one take sweep through the club, through the dance floor with people from all different eras. Like you're seeing like people twerking, and you're seeing like you said, like ancient Asian dancers or traditional Asian dancers. You're seeing like all like people playing cards and like do-rags, like guys crip walking. It's like this
The Ryan Coogler Eras Tour.
It's Ryan Coogler Eras Tour. Great. And like it is this, you just like, as you're watching it,
That's a good joke. I'm just kidding.
I'll tell you what, I yearn for the day that Hunter co-signs on one of my jokes. It keeps me up at night. I dream about the moment that I make a joke and Hunter's like,
we'll get there someday. We'll get there someday. But like, it is this like,
just keep on shooting, brother. You'll hit one day.
There's you miss 100. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. But like, I don't. It's like it almost does not need to be said that it is like a transcendent scene. I felt like I was lifting out of my seat, and I really think, for me, it's the moment in the movie where like you, Jarvis, I have tears in my eyes. I'm like so excited. And the scene comes to this close, and I was immediately like, it does not matter what the rest of this movie does. That's the difference between like a generational filmmaker and just like somebody making this movie, because this movie would have been cool and fun and thrilling and violent and sexy and all of that under a good director. But like somebody like Ryan Coogler can take that and has this idea that is out of the box and is not in line with what happens in the rest of the movie. And it is so easy to make that like something that isn't, that everybody's like, that was a weird little tangent he went on, but it feels so on, like you feel the movie kind of like peak here, and that's what the movie is about. That scene.
Dude, that scene alone was worth the price of admission, in my opinion. Like that scene is, like you said, that scene has stuck with me since I first saw it. Like I've thought about it a lot since first seeing it. It's something that I would say, to me, in my opinion, like after you leave changed after watching that movie, after seeing that scene. Like I said, it's that deep, and it spoke to me so deeply that it's just been consuming a lot of my thoughts since that movie. Like since I first saw it, like I've thought about that scene a lot and the emotions that were involved in it, the imagery, the depth of the weight of the history and culture behind, African music, Black music. Like it's so deep and rich, and like to be able to see it in that way, it's like I said, it's very hard to, in my opinion, describe the weight of that scene. It to me, you have to see it and experience it. You can't, I don't think you can explain that scene with your words and have it have the same depth if a person hasn't seen it. You know what I mean? If you're just trying to describe the scene, like it's not, you won't find the words to ever do it justice.
Yeah, of course.
But the experience of seeing it is, like you said, it's transcendent. It's crazy.
Michael, any thoughts? I'm throwing to Michael now. Or Michael's like, look, I'm just playing ref today.
I don't have to play ref. Sybil brings up a fantastic point about this specific scene in the movie, and it's going to sound like a bad word, but I don't think it is. It's jarring.
It is. No,
the scene is jarring.
It's so shocking.
And if you're not like into the movie by this point, you're out. And that's just how it is. But even the critics and the audience reviews are in, so they're in for it, and that's how it is. I will say, to go back to the screenwriting process.
Yeah, of course.
There is a lot to be said about. I mean, I know you've had ideas that you've acted on, and I'm sure that they came from one spark of an idea that's like, yes, this is one thing that happens like 80% of the way through whatever the story is. That's the story.
That's the moment.
Yeah. And it's fun to see them sometimes. You know, that, like, this was very obviously like this was the idea he had, and he was like, yeah, that's the whole movie.
Well, and he talks so much about, like, especially in Black Panther, when he's on the Black Panther circuit, like, he's talking so much about, like, wanting to write a movie about Africa in America and, like, his experience with that and trying to go back home and connect to his roots. And he said this thing in an interview that I read where he says, I think Africa explained Mississippi to me, something like that. And, like, so he makes these two movies about Africa, one of them about sort of cultural grief and one about deep, deep personal grief and, like, the clashing of cultures and how grief sort of manifests, like, between these cultures. And then he comes back home and he's like, I understand people, like, here more now. And the inception point is, like, is the blues music. He's been very blatant. Like, I was listening to blues. Blues is my connection to my uncle that I feel very close to. And, like, I wanted to make a movie about blues music. And, like, the scene is just like a scene about, like, this is the power of what that music does to me, to people. It's why it's important. And it's hard, right? Like, I'm a white dude. It's hard for me to talk about the Black experience in America. I can't really achieve that.
But it's cool to feel it.
But it's like
it's cool to have a moment like my uncle did watching Lady Bird, where he was like, wow, I'm a 40-year-old man and I never thought I'd understand a 17-year-old girl.
And
like, that's the moment. And that's cool.
And to pull the pin out of what I wanted to say about Ryan Coogler earlier is that I think he's such a strong communicator of the process of figuring something out, where he is like, you know, my whole thing with Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, I think, admittedly, a messy movie. I think a movie that not everybody would say is, like,
I don't even think I've seen it.
I think it's a very, very good movie. I think it's an underrated movie, but it's a movie that feels like it is sort of like feeling around in the dark after a staggering loss of somebody. Like, it's a movie about losing Chadwick Boseman and being like, in grief.
What do we do?
In our grief, like, what I'm feeling around, I'm like grabbing, okay, I'm picking up this idea and, like, is this going to do it for me? And, like, I think the movie's about the way we stumble in grief too. And this movie feels so much like him thinking about, you can see the gears turning, and not in a way that he hasn't figured the movie out. It feels like the point of the movie is, like, exploration.
Yeah.
And he is such a good communicator of that process of exploring ideas or feelings, cultural feelings. And, like, this scene is the perfect.
It's a movie about cultural music, and it moonlights as a vampire movie. And
so to continue, great scene. But, like, right after this scene, he essentially, because Sammy has conjured these spirits, he essentially calls out to, on accident, this Remick guy who has turned these two poor farmers into vampires, and they have all shown up to /Klansmen. And they have all shown up to, like,
allegedly,
to, like, to figure out a way. Well, we don't know why they've shown up yet, but essentially,
there it is.
They are folk musicians, and they roll up and they try to get in, and they play their little folk music, and it's an incredibly funny and sweet scene. I'm a big folk music fan. I'm also a big blues fan. We'll get into
Irish
this later.
Music.
And, like, you know, they're just playing, like, some classic, like, basically Appalachian folk, because Remick says he's from North Carolina. They all say they're from North Carolina. And so they try to get let in. They tell them no. no, you're white. You're not allowed in here.
Not only that, you're kind of weird.
Yeah. It's
Well, I forget which of the twins makes the point. I think it's Stack. I think it's Stack who says, "Hey, what happens if somebody looks at that guy's girl too long, or somebody steps on this guy's toes?
Yeah.
All they need is their word to freaking lynch somebody and kill somebody."
Yeah.
So during that time, I think the justification is legit in my opinion.
It's kind of the power of this movie is that like most of the I mean he feeds it to you. He likes to keep it a little bit of a secret and play coy, but like what's going on. And so like every time they sort of like edge up, everybody, you can feel everybody in the theater going like, don't let them in. I don't care how cute their music is. Don't let them in. Don't do it, like, and it's like such a fun convention to play with. So
I'm just getting Jarvis's strains now.
You're just getting it like, I think I said this, I used this term earlier. You're getting like pure uncut Jarvis, like directly to the dome right now. So they're trying to get in. Everybody at the club tells them no. Haley Steinfeld, who has arrived at the club moments before Sammy starts playing, and is trying to like rekindle her relationship with Stack, is like, let me go talk to them. I'm white. They'll understand me. I'll feel them out and I'll see if they're legit.
But not in a weird way.
No, not in a weird way, Jarvis. So then she goes out.
I want to remind you, Hunter, you asked to come back.
Spoiler alert. I did. Spoiler alert. She gets bitten. We don't see it, but she gets bitten. And then they, of course, allow her back in. Now, this is where I want to mention Coogler is playing with the vampire conventions really well, like the vampire rules that we know very, very well. I love that he lynches, or that not lynches, that he hinges. Nobody gets lynched in this movie. Thank God. I love that he hinges so much of the tension on this like really silly idea that vampires have to be let in. That is, I think that is deceptively hard. That rule that he's like, oh, I'm going to build tension out of this silly law that they can't come in unless we invite them in. Yeah. It's a very hard thing to write your way out of, in my opinion. And
does anybody know where that came from? Because that's always been a vampire thing for a long time.
There's been tons and tons of myths of vampires throughout like multiple different like types of mythology that they just kind of merged in that.
Yeah.
That's one. Yeah, that's one of those things that's been part of vampire lore for a while.
Bubonic plague.
Yes. Yeah.
The answer is bubonic plague.
Yeah.
It was the myth was that people are coming in to steal your blood. The vampires were not actually vampires. They were the plague. They came in and they would destroy your body within like a night, right? And so the idea is that if somebody comes to your door and asks for housing, you tell them no, and that they cannot come in because if you're around them too long, you'll catch it and die. So that's the answer to the question. Yeah, that's the answer. Yes, it's just like the cooties.
Just like the cooties. So, but like
no kissing.
Like Sybil brings up a good point. Like vampires are something I learned that I thought was really interesting is that like back in the early 2000s,
you're laughing at kissins a little too
much. Multiple kissins.
Hey, you look good over there.
Look real good.
Have you thought about sharing your kindness with others?
Share the love.
Maybe like the video. Click on that subscribe button. And show your friends.
Yeah, just touch it ever so lightly, that like button. Move over to the subscribe button. Maybe tap your keyboard just a little bit. Leave a comment. Bye.
That's it.